Well, hey, business building warrior, this is Jim. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I have a great episode today with a family, at least part of a family. It's a mom and a dad and three daughters. They got one of the daughters on the show with them today. They're in an RV recording this show because mom and dad, who you meet here in a minute, they travel full time. Instead of having a house, they've got an RV. How do they fund it? Well, they use their e-commerce and their other businesses. They've been in e-commerce and entrepreneurial for many years, building businesses and successfully launching and growing them and doing different things. They've never had real jobs. At least it's been a long time since they have. And Rob, the dad, who you'll meet here today, has been in e-commerce about as long as I've been, which it's a pretty rare breed. We're kind of the dinosaurs of the e-commerce movement, if you will, since the 90s, right? Selling things online and doing creative things, growing businesses. But they've found recently, very recently, actually, just a few short months ago, this community, this podcast, the Proven Amazon course, specifically starting out where we start 99% of all new Amazon sellers, because we've learned that it's the best place to start you after thousands of students. They started with the replens model, and they're seeing some early success. These aren't huge numbers. They're spending $1,000 or so per week on inventory, and they're seeing some significant success. It's got momentum. She's been an accountant in her past. Her name's Trish. That's the wife. So we're talking about Rob and Trish Verzera today. Their daughter, Linsey, joins us as well. Well, she by trade is an accountant. She loves the numbers. We talk about the numbers a little bit today, how they're going to continue to improve and increase the results that they're seeing. We dive into that topic. But they've validated this business model. They say, yeah, works. This works. We're going all in. We've made our daughter part owner of this new business, and they're doing it together. They're being very creative in their approach as well. They talk about some of the early products that they found, some of the big victories so far. We spent some time talking about virtual assistants on today's show. You might find that interesting. It's a topic that comes up quite a bit these days. We've got a service, provenreplensva.com. There'll be a link in the show notes to that and everything else we talk about today. But they've gone out and actually, because of Rob's experience, he was very comfortable going out and finding some virtual assistants. He went through several in order to find one good one that seems to be doing a great job for them. Finding 8 or so good replens, good underserved listings on Amazon is another way to say the same thing that they can sell against. Every day they wake up, there's a bunch more. Pay the virtual assistant a few dollars per hour. But we spend some significant time today talking about how they're considering using the service that we offer through Proven Replens VA to pick up another VA that's been trained by our team, just to shave off some time on the learning curve and get someone up to speed very quickly. We talk a little bit about Q4. Last 3 months of the year are called the fourth quarter, or Q4. And that's the time when a lot of people spend a whole lot of money because of Christmas and the holiday seasons, and how to get prepared for that. We talk quite a bit about several other topics today. It's an episode that I think will appeal to those who have been around for quite some time, as well as those who are new, or maybe you're struggling and you're saying, okay, what's really possible in the first few days, weeks, months of getting this up and going? They've only had an Amazon account as of today, as of recording this, for just a few short months. They didn't really get started until very recently. And a friend of them introduced them to this podcast, and that's what got them excited. But they're competent, they're smart, they're encouraged, they've proven this model works, and they're super excited for the future. I can't wait to see where these guys are 6 months or a year from now. They just strike me as the kind of couple that are going to rise in leadership and have a lot to offer this community as they continue this journey. Well, I probably could give you more of an introduction than that, but I think I'll cut it off right here and just introduce the family to you. Again, today we're going to meet Rob and his wife, Trish, and their daughter, Linsey Verzera. Let's enjoy the episode together. So welcome, guys. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for having us very much.
Yeah, for those who are listening, like I said, we've got the whole crew here. But Rob, how about we start with you, man, and just let's get right into your story.
Sure. Yeah, I got involved in e-commerce back in the late '90s when the web was still the web. It's not even that anymore. But got involved in that, started a company right after having my first real job. Started my own company, ran that for a bunch of years, grew it up really big, really fast. Love to use automation, really got into figuring out how to automate stuff. This is a big part of kind of how we get to where we get. But one of the things is I ran it with three other guys, and we like to play golf, right? And
Sure.
we automated everything. It was basically if you did something more than 3 times, we figured out how to automate it.
Oh, I love
Right.
that.
And with
Yeah,
that,
anything repetitive, right?
yeah.
You sound like you've got
Oh,
a
exactly.
programmer's brain. Are you a spreadsheet nerd like me too?
I'm a coder from I've
Yes,
been coding since I was 8 years old.
me too. Do you remember
So
the old
yep.
Commodore 64s and all that? Did you ever have one?
I started my I'm trying to think back in there's a pet I don't remember what it was. It was a pet was the name of the computer, and that's kind of where I started learning basic.
Yeah,
And then
Basic was
from
my
there it
first
just
language, and I won some nerdy programming contests and in high school, and yeah, that's my background too. And it really does kind of force you into thinking systematically and
oh
what
very
could
much
go
so.
wrong and contingencies. Like if this happens, what do we do? If that happens, what do we do? And thinking of
Yep.
all the possibilities, right? That's good battle training for building a business for sure. That systematic thinking, and for people who aren't that way, you can still do it, but you're going to need someone who kind of thinks systematically to kind of help you through it. Possibly, I guess. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of the things that really helped us scale and grow. I mean, the company, we ended up selling the company a couple years later, and the company that bought us was doing about, I'm trying to think, probably about 10 times as much as we were doing with 100 times the staff. So, I mean, we were running this thing
Wow.
with 4 people, and they're running it with 400. So
Yes.
they mainly bought us for 2 reasons. One, for our list at the time, our customer base, but also for all the automation that we put in place.
Yeah.
So that was
Exactly.
absolutely huge.
It reminds
And
me
then
of
from there, just kind of,
I'll tell you a quick story. You'll appreciate this, Rob.
yeah.
And I want to meet your family too, because I haven't introduced them yet. Maybe let's do that real quick, so don't get
Okay.
too far down the line. Let's. Who do you have with you here?
Sure. So this is my daughter, Linsey. She's one of my business partners right now. We run the business together, and my wife Trish, right here behind me. She's one of the reasons why we actually started the business. She kind of really kept encouraging us, and eventually we pulled the trigger. And now she's been seeing what we've been doing and listened to your podcast, and we got the
Awesome,
pack course and seeing the
beautiful.
replens. So she's jumped in, and she's basically handling. She started handling our replens. So we just
That's
started it,
awesome.
I think, a week or so ago, and or 2 weeks, and I think we're up to 15 replens now.
That's
So just
beautiful.
we're
Well,
just keep
we'll jump
pushing
into
forward.
that part of the story here in a bit, but that's so cool. I didn't realize that part of the story. So, Linsey and Trish, yeah, thanks for joining Rob and I on our little nerd journey here as we
Yeah.
start this podcast. So, thanks for hanging in there with us.
Yeah.
But it very much reminds me of this whole automation mindset, which is such an asset again to think this way. But it reminds me of a story I heard of a programmer who was getting the job done of like literally 10 or 15 programmers. He was the top programmer at this company. I don't remember the guy's name. I wish I'd have held on to the article when I read it, though. It just planted something in me like, I'm going to remember this story. Well, the company found out that he wasn't doing the work himself. He was actually outsourcing it for a few dollars per programmer to Pakistan and Philippines. And he had this whole
Oh
team
yeah.
of like 20 programmers making him look like a hero. So what did the company do? They fired him. And I thought, no, I want to build a company that embraces guys like that
Yeah.
and puts them in charge of the whole department, right? Because
Sure.
he's basically doing nothing and leading the charge of the programming and technology development of his company. Um,
Oh yeah.
like that's the
I
kind of
mean,
that's the kind of thinking you want.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was funny because that same thought process led up. I mean, throughout my whole career. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've worked for myself for the past 25 years, so I've never had a real job. But everything I do, I always look at that. And even right before we got into Amazon, we did a lot of affiliate marketing and network marketing, and it was interesting because that's when I discovered VAs. And now all of a sudden, I can actually have a real person outsource. I can outsource to them for literally pennies on the dollar, and it makes life so much easier because you can't, I mean, time is the commodity that everybody wants, and
Yeah.
now I can outsource that and get more time, and that was always been the goal, right? You want that time freedom, and that's one of the things that doing that and constantly doing that and evolving that process has allowed us to have. So that part has been absolutely fantastic.
That's beautiful. And this might be an opportunity. I'd love to hear from Trish because we haven't heard from her yet. And then Linsey too. I mean, we got your team here. So, but Trish, you guys are in an RV right now. This is your life. Fill us in. What's the reality of the last few years of this e-commerce lifestyle, living on the road? Talk from a mom's vantage point, wife and a mom. Fill us in.
Yeah. So we've been on the road now for just over a year, and Linsey being our youngest, so for my business, I do a lot of network marketing and do a lot of online stuff. But because of Rob, we've been able to have the success we have because of the automation. So he was always the back end. I was the front end. But it was one of those things that I've got several friends who are doing Amazon. And that was kind of why I was pushing him towards it. Because I'm like, he was trying to figure out something new to do. And I'm like, this is where we should go. We've got people. We know it's possible. We know, it can be bigger. And the other thing is that when she graduated, the economy was kind of crazy. The housing market went crazy. And we were going to buy a house because we had just moved to Arizona a few years prior. We were getting ready to buy a new house here. And I said to him, why? Like, why should we go buy a house right now and have a big mortgage when, first of all, we're going to be buying at the top? We don't want to do. Yeah. And I said, we work from home 100%. And so we decided, let's, buy an RV. And she was, done with school, getting ready to go to college. But then she decided she didn't want to do that, which was fine. But it's been great because honestly, we've been able to work from anywhere. We've been able to go see great things. And the biggest thing is as long as you're disciplined and doing the work, it doesn't matter where you're doing the work from. And so I like it because it's introduced our kids to new things. We've been able to meet up with them on the road in different places. Our other two daughters are older. One just graduated college. One is in college. And I don't know. It's just allowed a completely different perspective on life as opposed to the go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and work there for the rest of your life.
Oh my goodness. I could soapbox on that one for sure. That's beautiful. I love it. So Trish, what are some of the favorite places you guys have been to? I mean, Linsey, sorry.
Oh, so I don't actually travel with them. She didn't
travel with us.
You don't?
But you meet up.
I meet up with them. So I actually right about this time last year, I quit my job and started doing some network marketing and some stuff online. And then my mom reached out to me and she was like, hey, do you want to do this Amazon business? And I was like, okay, why not? And so I had an apartment and I'm actually just moving right now. So I'm moving in with them for a little bit while we are getting ready to move all my stuff to where I'm actually moving.
So by moving in with mom and dad, you mean you're traveling in the RV temporarily? Is that, or hanging with them there?
For about a week or so.
Oh, very short term. I gotcha.
We're in Arizona right now, and that's where her apartment is.
Oh, okay.
One of her main roles is she basically acts as our prep center. So we have everything shipped to her apartment. She handles basically packaging up, pushing out to Amazon. So one of the transition points we're in right now is that her apartment, she's moved out of her apartment. She's with us for about a week, and then we're heading out to Colorado Friday to get her into her new place. So our prep center right now is in the RV. So it's been a little challenging, but
sure,
it's just one of those things. It's part of the fun journey. We've got awesome video from us last week doing a shipment of 300 items out of here. So it was
beautiful.
It was definitely it's been fun. But being on the road it's a very different lifestyle, and it's a lot of fun. If you're willing to make some sacrifices, it's fantastic. I would never change. And we're like Trish said, we went from a motorhome. Now we're in something a lot larger, so it feels a little more homey. But it's just great. I mean, I would recommend anybody wants to try it. It's a little bit minimalist, but it's awesome. It's a great.
Well, we've got two of the really great coaches on our team, Gary and Gay Mosley. Have you interacted with them yet?
No, not yet.
Okay,
nope.
You'll want to meet them. They've been in a community for quite a while. We're starting up a Facebook group soon. Probably by the time this podcast episode goes out, we will have established a group for people who are living the e-commerce lifestyle fully mobile, typically RV. So there's a significant number of people out there, and there's other communities out there that are doing this, but a lot of them have, I don't know. It's the nickel and dime business opportunity stuff. Like, hey, I make sock puppets and I sell one a week on Etsy. Like, okay, that's great, but you can't support a family with that. So we're looking at integrating this Replens model, this Amazon selling model, and kind of penetrating that market because it's custom built for. I mean, if someone can live outside the United States, and do this without ever seeing or touching the inventory, surely you can live here and hop around in an
100%.
RV and visit your kids and go town to town and go where the opportunity is, go where the weather is.
Yep.
Why not? Right.
Oh,
That's
100%.
And you guys are dialing it in. I love that you're at the start of your journey, though. We may even be able to do some coaching or tweaking of your systems. I know you're a system family. So let's think through that. Unless there's any more of the story that you guys want to share, Trish or Linsey, do we leave anything out that you want to insert? Kind of like the reality of kind of how you got here.
You, Linsey.
I mean, so for me, this was kind of my first, like actual business, but I've grown up around this. This is what they've done my whole life, and so
entrepreneurial parents, huh? What's that like?
Yeah, like I mean, it's really great because they were around my whole life. I wasn't in daycare. I was a competitive gymnast growing up, so they were always at my meets. I never had to deal with like that, like the other side of things, them not being there. And so when I had a job one summer and I said, okay, never again. And
but
so
good for you parents, though. I think every kid, even if they have successful entrepreneurial parents, you need to work for somebody else for a while and get a taste of how hard people work for $10 an hour out there, man. Right. Just the real world a little bit.
But yeah, so, when I had this opportunity to be able to start something of my own and with them, I was just like, okay, like that's definitely, I want to do that because the work I put in will see that direct like outcome with it. So yeah.
Fantastic.
And she's a part owner. She's 40% owner of the company. So I mean, we have a company. She's part of it. So it's gives her that. The whole thing is to get out of that employee mindset.
Yes.
Because once when you're an owner, you do things very, very different than when you're just an employee working for a paycheck. And that's one of the things that we really try to instill upon our kids, that to have that owner mindset and just make sure that things, it's your business, right? So run it the way that you want to run it. You know how not to run things. So you've been part of other people's plans, and sometimes it's just not good. So to be able to take that and run with it the way you want to run with it is really good.
But build an asset instead of working for a paycheck, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a great lesson to instill in your kids. And being in an entrepreneurial home, I think it almost comes naturally. I've noticed kids who are raised on farms tend to just naturally understand that as well. Delayed gratification, work hard, build something, whatever you're building is to serve others eventually, and selling it for a profit and watching the numbers. And same thing if you got a business out of your house, you get those lessons kind of built into your kids. They instinctually just learn so many great things. So how many kids did you guys say you had?
We have 3 daughters.
3 daughters.
3 daughters. Yep. Yeah. So it's been I always joke that it's payback for misspent youth, but they are fantastic kids. They are, I'm proud to be their dad. So
that's beautiful, man. Awesome. Congratulations, guys. Yeah, I've only got one little girl, and she's our youngest with 4 older brothers. But I certainly learned a lot of things from her. There has been no other way for me to learn certain lessons without a little girl in the mix, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, let's talk business. Let's transition in. Take it. You started to introduce us a little bit to the beginnings. It sounds like Trish kind of initiated the whole Amazon thing.
So I started working out. There's a group that I work out with every morning, and one of the guys that I work out with, he was talking about, this is just pre-COVID. He was just dabbling with Amazon.
Sure.
Him and his wife ran another business, and then when COVID hit, their business essentially went away. So he had no choice but to make his little Amazon hobby into a business. So it was great because I was doing some affiliate marketing stuff and developing some things along that line. He was doing his Amazon stuff. So we'd work out in the morning. We usually run first, and as we're running, just talking about business. So it was great to see him and just to be able to discuss different opportunities for both of us on, hey, you know what, if you change this a little bit, maybe this would work for you, maybe this would work for you. So then that just kind of stemmed. So it was great to watch and listen to him and see his business grow. And then once when it got to a point where he was doing about $500,000, or he was almost at $500,000 in sales, I was talking to Trish about it, and then finally we just sat down one day and we were like, okay. She's like, you really need to do this. I'm like, all right, let's just dive in. So took a little time, figured a couple things out, set up some budgets, and just kind of dove in. And the great thing was, I started with a different coaching program that he was part of. But the nice thing was that our families are great friends. I mean, I could have him on speed dial anytime I want. He lives 10 minutes down the road from where we're at right now. So if I ever need anything, I have him on. I can give him a call. Hey, man, I'm having an issue with this. What do you suggest? So he was a great mentor to me, and it really helped me course correct a lot of times, and it shaved a whole bunch of learning time off of the mistakes I would have made. So it was great because he's been down that road, made the mistakes, and he sees me going down there and be like, okay, I was doing the same thing, backtrack a little bit and change this. And as soon as we did that, we grow again. So it was always great to be able to have that little hole right in my pocket. If I ever needed it, I can call and not. What happens a lot of times that I've found just doing coaching other people is that people do stuff in a box, right? They're alone on their journey, and sometimes they just want somebody just to bang questions off of, or a little bit of guidance because they just don't know.
Yeah.
And instead of putting it out in a Facebook group, where sometimes a lot of people, even though Facebook groups are there for that, a lot of people are still embarrassed sometimes to ask that question. So being able to go directly to a source and be like, all right, man, I need help. What do I do here? And
relationships are key, and having that mentor, absolutely hugely valuable.
Been absolutely huge. Yes, very much so.
So remind me, I remember I read your bio, but it was yesterday, and I read a lot of bios, but you guys grew a fairly successful Amazon brand, right? Wasn't that you? You had some significant success? No? Or is this your first adventure into Amazon is here recently?
This is our first adventure into Amazon.
Okay. So you haven't got any major traction yet. That was okay. I'm confusing you with another story. Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. I know you had other businesses that have done well.
We've had other successful launches doing other things outside of Amazon.
Right.
But yeah, this is our first dive into Amazon. And I mean, we kind of and maybe sometimes it's a fault, but when we decide to do something, we usually just go all in. I mean, there's no messing around. It's just, this is the way that we're going to succeed, and this is the path we need to take. And that's kind of what we did. And so far, knock on wood, it's been going well. We've learned some lessons the hard way, just like everybody does. We've lost a little bit of money here, but right in the beginning on a couple products, but we learned quickly what to look for, what not to look for. And from that point, we've just been, we have our systems down in place. Every day we know what we're doing, and we're at the point now where we're starting to grow. We're at a point where we want to start scaling now, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. Okay, how can we scale to 10 times, 100 times where we're at right now? What's it going to take cost-wise? What's it going to take in capital, and what's it going to take in people? So that's kind of what our goal is over the next year to really scale up.
Well, let's talk through some specifics of what you guys have done so far, and what those next few steps are, and make it possibly as useful for you guys as possible today, and maybe for the listener as well, useful for them, as maybe we've got some newer listeners who are in those initial stages. Just talk us through the past couple months or so. You guys aren't in this that long. Yeah.
We started March 28th is we actually got approved as an Amazon seller.
Right. Here we are, beginning of September.
Yep. So we hit 45,000 in sales yesterday, which was really kind of cool.
Total sales. That's awesome.
Which has been a great milestone. But initially what we did is, once we decided we were going to do it, I mean, the magic question is, okay, how much money do I need? Right. And that's obviously going to be dependent on everybody. We decided we had 20,000 that we were going to basically set aside for this business. We knew that there was going to be some initial initial capital we need up front just for some stuff, right? Like Keepa. We use a couple different software tools, just some other stuff besides our actual capital that we need to actually purchase product. So kind of what we did is, we knew that Amazon's going to be holding some money. We knew that we're not going to have immediate cash flow. So we took that 20,000. We knew that we basically said we have 3 months of purchasing power here. What do we do with it? So we made a budget per week, and then we basically tried to spend to that budget every single week. So it started off with, if you do the math, 16 divided by 12 is around 16, or 20 divided by 12 is around 1,600 bucks a week is what we had to spend. What I realized very quickly was that when you're not ungated in a lot of things, it's hard to buy $1,600 worth of product per week. So
Sure.
we start off as much as we can per week and just kept tracking that. Worked really hard on getting ungated in a lot of things. Learned how to source by asking a ton of questions of people. And that's one thing we've gotten really good at, is knowing how to source. So once we had that, one of the very first things we did was, after we were sourcing for about 2.5 weeks, we're like, this is just a time suck here, right? So I went out, I found 5 VAs. I gave them all a 15-hour. I hired 5 VAs for 15 hours with certain parameters for them to go find products, right? And it was basically just a test, because we knew at that point that the only way to do this is to farm this out, because this is just, it's too much time. So out of that, we had found 2 VAs that were really good. They started going, and then all of a sudden they just disappeared. So did that process again, and then we end up with 1 VA right now who we still have, and she's awesome. She is phenomenal at finding sources. I don't know how she does it. I'm not going to ask questions, because she does it really, really well now. We taught her how to use some software to do some reverse sourcing, to do some storefront stalking. So she does every day. She works for us full time now, 8 hours a day, and she produces anywhere between 8 to 10 leads a day. So that has been great. The other thing that we did, and I know that a lot of people are not in favor of it, but we got on 2 leads lists through a couple companies, through another company. Anyway, that worked out really well. That has been one of our main sources of getting product right now. So we have 2 lead lists and our VA. Through that, we get around 60 leads a day. And of those, we purchase as much as we can to hit our budget. So, and now ramping up the 4th quarter, we've upped our budget to about 5,000 a week now. So that's one of our goals, is we're trying to hit that 5,000 a week purchasing. Just because I know Q4 is coming, everybody's going crazy over Q4, and we've never gone through it yet. So I'm excited to go through it.
Yeah. You're going to really enjoy it. As a replens seller, it's not so much about finding the hottest top seller. Any given year, there's the hot Christmas toy, and people go in way too deep a lot of times and have trouble selling all of it, even sometimes, because they just get excited about the hot stuff. But everything, even the boring stuff, just tends to sell 10 to 30% more than it normally would have over that 6 to 8 week period. Just everybody's shopping for everything, even the boring stuff, just more of it sells. So that's kind of the rule of thumb. But the nice thing about the replens model is you're not completely reliant on a spike in December to carry your business. January is often just as good, if not a better month for replen sellers as is December. Right? And then February tapers off a little bit. There's a bit of a slowdown across all shopping online in the middle of the summer months. That's for everybody.
That's with everything, though.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, pretty much everything. But yeah, it's a very stable, almost boring. And I would imagine already, even with the limited number of products that you guys are selling, it's a pretty random, strange mix, I would imagine at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. We always joke, like, some of our biggest sellers are just these weird items. I'm like, what do people do with these things? I mean, it's just, it absolutely kills me. And that was the great thing. After we were on a road trip a couple of weeks ago, and that's how we kind of got introduced to your podcast. So we kept hearing this replens, because one of the things that we realized fairly quickly is that when all we do is OA stuff, right? So it's a hard model to be consistent with, right? It's hard to scale that, because it's just random stuff all the time. So once we heard about the replens and how much easier it is to be able to project numbers, to be able to say, okay, I know if we have this many replens, we can basically calculate out and know that this is going to be our profit margin, at least for this month, or at least for this week, right? And being able to project those things and be able to know what those numbers are makes life so much easier versus, hey, we're going to send in random item here. We know that the drops are pretty good. Let's hope that we can sell it and hope that the listing doesn't get tanked by sellers that come in and just kill the price. So,
yeah, learning to tell the difference between an Easter egg hunt item and a good solid long-term replant.
Yep.
And learn, that's a lot of what we train. And you mentioned the buy lists too. And I just want to just caution listeners, because I've never endorsed or promoted a buy list before, simply because if we did in front of tens of thousands of listeners, that buy list would then be destroyed, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
But if you use it as a starting point for research, any buy list could be decent.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the thing you discover over time is they really are passed around quite a bit. There's people who hire virtual assistants to buy all the buy lists and then compile a buy list of the buy list and sell that as a buy list, right? It's just like it's piranhas eating each other. And so the buy lists that are great today could be garbage a month from now. It's very up and down. And so I don't get too excited about it, because I just want to make sure and tamper people's expectations about what you're really getting into with the buy list. Proceed with caution. Don't look at it as a list of stuff to go buy. It's more of a research starting point list. And if you use it that way, you can discover new stores, new websites, new lines of product. And you also talked a little bit about ungating as well and some of the challenges. Talk me through that. What categories are you in? And are the gates starting to open for you now? Because in my experience, once you've sold 40 to 60 items or so, something like that, the gates start really opening up for you in new categories, new brands. It gets a lot easier. Are you guys experiencing that?
Yeah, very much so. One of the first things, like the first week started, it was frustration was huge.
Right.
So one of the things I did is I started doing some research, because I noticed that a lot of things I get automatically gated in. So knowing that, there has to be a list out there somewhere of those ASINs. So I took a couple hours and found a list of about probably 500 ASINs. I had my VA go through and ungate in as many as we can, and about probably over half we got ungated automatically. So that was good, because at least we started getting open up to more products. I started talking with my mentor, and he was directing me to at least where we can buy some of the hotter selling items and at least get ungated in those. So I made some connections with a couple companies. So we got ungated in Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, 2 or 3 other sports things like that. We got ungated with Lego. So once we started doing those, all of a sudden that really helped our sales go up. And then we started getting ungated in a lot more things very easily. We're still gated in a bunch of stuff, and it's frustrating sometimes when you start looking at the numbers. It's like, oh, how do I get ungated this one? Yeah. So that's kind of the challenge now.
Well, you'll always be gated in some things. What you'll notice, again, after you've sold a few items, people have their tricks and their services, and you can pay us $200 and we'll get you ungated in the category and all that. Like, no, just sell the stuff that you're eligible to sell. And those gates really do start to fall open. Typically, if someone's coming to me and saying, oh, I just can't find anything, everything's gated, I know that person has been trying for less than a couple months.
Yeah, exactly.
Because on the other side of that 2 or 3 month window, it's just not an issue. It really isn't. And there's a creative way to get ungated. And the stuff that you are gated in is the stuff that everyone else is gated in too at that point. It's like there's certain things you just can't sell. You know, if you want to get on there and sell MacBook Pros, it's not going to happen, dude. It's that low hanging. It's the long tail stuff that you want to get into anyway. The boring, unusual. What is this product? People hear names like Nike and Under Armour, like, oh, how exciting! Yeah, I want to sell that because everyone knows what it is. Well, it's the unusual Nike stuff. It's not the hot Nike stuff. It's the stuff from years ago, and it's the long tail.
You're exactly right. Some of the things we sell, like we're like, what is this? Even? Right? Yeah. But it's a big seller. Like, well, that send in the shipment, and it's selling before it ever arrives, and we just laugh because we had no idea what the item even was, but it's working.
Right. What category? Give us a little bit of a description. One of those strange items that you found already.
We have it's an internal piece of an electronic lock. Right. It's it's like this big. We buy it for $60 and we sell it for $180.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've been selling it now for, I think it was one of the first things. It's maybe not one of the first things we bought, but probably within that first month we bought it.
It was in the second shipment.
Yeah, second shipment.
How did you talk us through how you found that? Talk us through the process. What did it look like on Keepa? And what made you think it was a good reseller for you?
Well, initially we found it on one of the leads lists and we looked at it. The listing is a horrible listing, first of all, because it literally had a picture of it comes in a green box. There's no writing on the box. It comes in just a green box. And I'm like, there's no way this is real. So we just passed by it. And then I was looking at a couple other things and started looking at the chart and was like, there was only 2 or 3 other sellers on it. And it was selling really well. And I'm like, let's just do a test here real quick. So we bought, I think, 4 or 5 of them. They sold in a week. So we're like, okay. So I tried doing an order for 10. The order got canceled. So I called the company and said, hey, listen, I'd like to buy, like, first, do you guys offer wholesaling? They're like, yeah. I'm like, can you send me a wholesale list? I'm like, sure. And they sent it to me. I'm like, okay. I didn't have a reseller's license yet. But I was just curious if they would do it. They did, and I called and talked to one of the reps and told them, I said, we don't have a reseller's license yet, but I want to buy a bigger quantity. So we did a quantity of 10, and they were like, sure, no problem. So we went ahead and did that, and I just reordered again. And now I think they're starting to pick up on it now because I went to reorder it yesterday, and the price has tripled now of what they're selling it for. So I'm like, so that one's probably going to go away, which is kind of unfortunate because it was it was a great seller, and the ROI was off the charts. So it was definitely good.
But there's a million like it out there.
Oh,
That's now that you know how to recognize and research, and you mentioned earlier some of the store stalking. I don't know if you've been through the advanced Keepa training in
Not yet.
Proven Amazon course. You'll love it.
Started it, but I haven't gotten very far yet because I started it when I was going through the replens course. And we had the free version of Keepa up until going through the replens course, and now we just changed.
You got to have the paid version.
So we just did that this week, and so now I'm going to dive into that training a lot.
Oh,
deeper.
You're going to love it. I mean, because it really is. It's systematic, methodical, looking at other sellers, combing through for what would work really well for your inventory lineup as well. And sometimes people are hesitant when they hear that concept, but the thing you have to keep in mind with replen selling is you are selling alongside other sellers. That is the game. If you see an ASIN that has one seller on it and they're the brand owner, that's probably not a good idea to hop on there. They're going to kick you off.
Yep.
But if you've got 2 or 3 or 5, or in some cases even 30 or 50 other sellers, and that buy box is aggressively rotating through all the sellers priced, in similar proximity to each other, you can jump in and get a few sales a month at a nice margin on really hot moving products. That's the game. So it doesn't hurt anyone for you to jump in and say, hey, what are other people selling? Just the thing you don't want to do is be the guy that drives the price into the dirt unnecessarily. Right?
Yep.
Right.
And when that happens, you just kind of step back, wait for the price to bounce back up into profitable territory. Off you go again.
Yep.
But you guys are starting to discover some pretty cool things pretty fast here. You're going to enjoy the journey, and it's custom built for a guy that can kind of think in a systemized way. Because again, we've got plenty of people, like I mentioned, Gary and Gay Mosley earlier. They've got a very robust business. Their coaches on our team, they don't do anything really except look at their reports. They've got all standard operating procedures.
That's what we want to get to.
And you're not far from it. Once you understand the basics, bringing in the VAs, sounds like you were even comfortable going out, finding and hiring and training your own VAs. That's awesome. That's a service we offer, but we encourage people, hey, if you want to do that yourself, that's fantastic. The thing I like to encourage when we're talking about virtual assistants is get somebody who works only for you. Because if they're working for 20 other Amazon sellers, there's a built-in incentive for them to kind of send the same idea to all 20 and get paid by 20 people for one idea. And you'll find yourself bumping into the same people mysteriously over and over again on Amazon. Maybe I should have them work just for me. So that's what we do. We actually provide that service. As far as I know, we're the only ones that provide exclusive VAs who work just for the single seller that they're assigned to. Hey, we'll get back to the show in just a moment, but I'm excited to tell you about easily one of the top 3 most used Amazon seller tools in our community. I use it. My team uses it every day. The vast majority of the successful interviewed guests on this podcast use the tool. It's called Rev Seller, and they've got a special price just for this community. You can see the details of what the tool does and see the special offer at provenamazoncourse.com/RevSeller. Rev Seller. I'll spell it REVSELLER. provenamazoncourse.com/Rev Seller. It puts all kinds of useful information right on the screen, right on top of any listing on Amazon that helps you make a really fast, good decision on your inventory buys. You're going to love it. Go see what all it can do for you at provenamazoncourse.com/Rev Seller. Let's get back to the show. And you'll find yourself bumping into the same people mysteriously over and over again on Amazon. Like, maybe I should have them work just for me. So that's what we do. We actually provide that service. As far as I know, we're the only ones that provide exclusive VAs who work just for the single seller that they're assigned to. But
we're actually going to have a few more questions about that for you too. But it was interesting. We were on vacation. I don't know, it's like a month or so ago, and our friends who also were Amazon sellers were with us. They're the ones who introduced us to your podcast because we were driving in the middle of nowhere. And the podcast that he always loves, we had gotten through the last episode and needed something new. And he was like, have you ever heard of this? Your podcast? And we're like, no. So he turned it on and we just listened to episode after episode after episode.
Awesome.
We had a couple hour drive, like a 4-hour drive, and we just kept listening to it.
Yeah. For like
What's
2
their
weeks
names?
as we were driving.
The people that introduced you.
Ed and Carla Dassey.
I'm sorry?
Good.
Ed and Carla Dassey.
Ed and Carla. Names. Thank you, Ed and Carla.
They're great. But I will say so my prior profession is I was a CPA. And so numbers are my thing. And,
nice.
I've been going through their numbers and we, our profit margins overall, we ran it this morning. Overall from day one, we're at 20% profit margin, which we're good with. The last 30 days, we're at about 17%, but that's because we're also getting rid of some older stuff in the very beginning.
Some of the mistakes.
Yeah.
But after listening to the podcast and hearing some of the people who are on, I'm like, okay, good. You can have higher margins. And
absolutely.
Obviously, and then really listening to your replay. So that was what got me into wanting to go through the course to learn more about it, to kind of start doing it. But my question then comes, 2 things. One, I love the fact that the VA is for you and nobody else. That I love, like you said, because now you're not competing. But after doing this, doing the course and then, going out there and finding them for the last couple of weeks, our original plan was to do it after fourth quarter. But now we're thinking maybe of doing it sooner because I feel like sooner might be better because I feel like listening to other people, the return on investment seems to be fairly quick because you guys train them so well. And what was
so you're considering getting one of our proven replens VA working? I'm with you.
100%.
Yeah. And what kind of expectation? Well, we've served well over 300 clients at this point. It's a fairly new program from my vantage point, because a lot of times when we do things around here, we get 1,000 people pretty fast doing and participating in whatever it is that we're doing. So it's in its infancy, but all indicators are at this point that it's pretty consistent. Is it foolproof? No, we're still learning some things. We've had to switch VAs out for a couple of folks. We had some folks decide, I think I'm just going to do this on my own. But I'd say 95% of those clients are happy. They're very happy. They're getting that list of new ASINs every morning, researched by their virtual assistant, trained by our team. And the nice thing too is we're going to be doing some cutting edge ongoing training. So the VA works only for you, but we can continue to give them additional training and almost snap those modules on over time and allow them to do different skill sets for your business, even including up to, this is kind of the vision we have, is the really good VAs that really step up and lead and do well for their clients. They become the team manager of a team of VAs that do the whole business just for you, not for a bunch of other sellers, just for you. So you've got that loyalty, and you can begin, as you mentioned earlier, Rob, kind of almost encourage that ownership mentality, even in your VA. Hey, as things go well, there's going to be a bonus here. You're on our team now. You're part of the family here now. And we have that vision for this program. So absolutely tremendous investment that will pay off.
Yeah, because my thought was 2 things. One, the one thing I love about helping the VAs is that all the ones that we have had work, they're great people. And everything that we've always done in the past, it's always been, the more people you can help, obviously the better return you're going to get for yourself. And my thought was, if we were able to bring on somebody, sooner than later, one that's going to help them and their family through the holidays, obviously, but it also at the same time would help us grow our business a little bit faster as opposed to just waiting for it. And, but then I guess one of my questions would be on it is, I know obviously other people are going to be on those ASINs, but are they being trained to, think about how to rephrase this. Obviously with the leads list, you can easily end up with 150 or more sellers on something because it's been on this list. And then that's what tends to tank the price because people come in and do crazy things.
They're not using leads lists as a starting reference point.
You're teaching them how to actually go out and find these things.
Create
so
you a
likely
list.
Right. And likely I'm guessing there would be fewer sellers and then there are obviously things that have got a better profit margin, I'm guessing.
You can set whatever ROI you'd like to have as your base standard. Like I think our virtual assistant was told we want to make a minimum of $5 net profit, 40% ROI. That's the minimum before we even consider something. Typically, we like to see significantly higher than that. And then it's their job to get in and research. And one of the things, you've got family in various cities. One of the things that you can do is some of those regional stores that aren't maybe national, but they're only in the part of the world where you're at. You're in Arizona right now. There's stores that are just Western US and they're in 4 states around the area, or maybe it's just in the Arizona. And you go in and take pictures of the store shelves there. Send that to your VA. Make sure they can see the barcode, the price, how many ounces are in the product, so they're getting an exact match, and let them do research off of that. So you're kind of feeding them these slightly more exclusive, and rather than you doing the research, you could, but they sit and do the research for $3 or $4 an hour and overnight. And now they're coming back and saying, hey, this is a replay in here. So you do control some of the exclusivity of the replens you're going to get, but they are certainly trained to get creative, to get out and, we're not feeding them all Walmart leads. And it becomes very apparent very quickly just how creative they've been trained to kind of shake the bush for unique and creative ideas. There's many different ways to do just that, but you can certainly continue to train them as well. If you get a list, like, you're talking about that little green battery box and you got that list, hand that whole list to your VA, right? We've got the training now that you guys will want to go through. This is another module that's coming soon. We had about 1,000 people pay to go through this training. But the nice thing about the Proven Amazon course is even when we offer separate paid training, eventually it ends up free as a module in the collection of Proven Amazon course modules, right? So we typically will offer it to a live class, then we'll offer it as a discount to those who want to go through. And then a few months later, it's free content. So no matter how you guys end up getting this, it's our OAS class, Online Arbitrage Simplified. And that talks about using a tool called tactical arbitrage in a creative way to go through lists like the one that battery company sent you. And you can just pour through it super fast and look for potential. So if you're finding creative lists like that, something that other people in our community do, I'm doing this actually day after tomorrow. I'll be going to an event where there's a whole bunch of wholesalers and distributors and people who have lists of products. And I'll just be going up to them one at a time and like, hey, I sell on Amazon. Do you guys like Amazon sellers? And if they say, absolutely not, we can't stand Amazon. Okay, well, I'll move on to the next one.
Move to the next one. Yeah.
But if they do, I'll say, hey, could I get a spreadsheet of all of your product catalog? Run it through with my VA, maybe run it through tactical arbitrage. And TA doesn't catch everything because you got to have a match. You got to have a barcode match or whatever. And as a programmer, this stuff, Rob, you can miss a lot just letting the computer do a quick match search. You actually get the human intelligence going through, pouring through, using the keywords and the brands and looking for replens. You can be sitting on a gold mine with a few contacts like the ones that you guys have already established.
Okay.
So you kind of control, that's a long answer for you, Trish, but
that's okay.
You
that's
can kind of control what you feed them.
Okay. I love that.
But they're doing the tedious work. The
Yeah.
people who don't like it are the ones who go, hey, I just bought a VA. That means I don't have to do anything ever again. This is great.
Yeah.
Send me money every day. Like,
Yep.
you've got a relationship with someone who's capable of combing through data quickly, and you can send them stuff and they will find some things for you. Absolutely. But if you get creative, you've got a big advantage. You've got to leverage that creative talent that's on your team now.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I've talked to people that say I can't afford to have a VA. I'm like, all the VA needs to do is find one good product per day, and they pay for themselves. I mean,
absolutely.
it's just
More
that right there.
Even a couple a week,
yeah,
arguably.
Yeah.
If they're part-time, especially a couple a week.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's crazy to me because the amount of time spent on trying to find that stuff is just mind-boggling, because you go down a rabbit hole, and this happens a lot, is just looking at different products. You start going down that rabbit hole, and all of a sudden you look up and 4 hours have gone by.
Yes.
So it's just,
and you've got
it's
87 tabs open on your laptop.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so, but
what else you guys want to talk about? What else is on your list? Any questions? Anything else you want to go over? You're kind of new to the community. Is there anything I can do to help you on your journey? You've certainly got a great start. You've got a great team.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny, when we first started listening to you, you were just having the big event a couple weeks ago that you just had, and we were like, all four of us in the car, we were just like, oh man, we should be going. We're in the wrong spot right now.
You should have been in Louisville a couple weeks ago, man.
Yeah. So we'll definitely we're planning on being there for next year, wherever it's going to be. So looking forward to that. And I know we just got an email. I think you just sent an email out the other day about the videos are now available.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
We've got them on sale here for a few days. By the time this podcast episode rolls out, they may have gone off sale, but theprovenconference.com, we got the videos there from the most recent live event. But the good news is, if you're a proven Amazon course student, again, everything eventually ends up rolling into there. You may have heard me say before, it's kind of like signing up for a movie streaming service. The new latest Marvel movie is only in theaters until it's also added onto the streaming service at some point in the future. That's how we do things around here. Like, if you want it right now when it comes out, you're gonna have to pay a few bucks. If you're okay waiting, we'll get it to you.
Yeah. And I absolutely love that model too. I mean, it's great. I'm a big fan, because especially for people that are just starting out, there are so many people out there that are going to drop, or that are offering these, hey, give me $5,000, I'll teach you how to do this. When it's just so much easier, especially getting started. You have a huge community all of a sudden. You have a very low entry point, and at least the basics are there. If you want to do the more advanced stuff, that's absolutely fine. But that pack course, some of those things in there, I like it. I love it, and I love the fact that it's a month. Okay, I'm totally good with that. And like you said, if you pay up front, you want it right now, fantastic. There's a lot of times where I don't need it right now. I'm going to need it in 2 months down the road, and I'm okay waiting that thing sometimes.
Yeah, so and a lot of people take advantage of that. We have people who bought that course. I keep having people walk up. That's who I'm waving. I keep having people walk up to our front. I face the front door, so I've got kids and their fiancés and people coming and going all day. That's why I keep waving. But we have people that bought the Proven Amazon course 12 years ago but when it first launched, I think it was $100 one-time payment, and they've never paid us another penny. And they've just received tens of thousands of dollars of ongoing value from this thing. So we went to a monthly pay model not too long ago, just to continue to be able to pay the team and the support, and continue to pay the content creators. But it's a great model. We're very proud of it. It's being used in universities and some high schools around the world. And so it's really taken on a life of its own. But thanks for noticing that as a business model, it was a very slow up ramp to being a profitable model. It took us years.
Oh
to get this thing to okay, this is viable. But now that we're here, it's a pretty well-oiled machine that serves the students well. And you're going to find, and you'll appreciate this, guys, that the just-in-time learning versus just-in-case learning aspect. You kind of just hit on that. What you need next will be there when you need it. You don't have to go out and cram your head full of 6 months worth of content to launch. It's, few baby steps in and off we go.
Yeah. And that's what happens a lot of times. People get in this learning mode and just learn instead of do. And once you start it's amazing once you cross that bridge and actually start do, stuff happens, right? It's a lot of times it's just about doing the action. The results are going to happen if you do the action, right? The results are either going to be good or bad, but as long as you keep doing the action, you can evaluate the results and then course correct. But
Yes.
it's
Especially
about
when the
actually
risks are so
doing
small.
the action.
The
Yeah.
risks are
Yep.
just so incredibly small. So
Yep.
little fund and training needed to get started. Well, what
Very
else do you guys want to talk about? Anything else? I know you guys had some questions.
Yeah.
Yep.
When do you want to ask?
Yep.
Well, I guess so. I mainly kind of do a lot of the like shipping and packaging and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like,
And
do you guys?
inventory.
Yeah, and inventory, like all that stuff. Do you guys use like a prep center? Like, how long did you do it yourself before you outsourced it, or do you still do some of it now? I guess.
Yeah,
That-
you could ask 100 people in our community who have reasonable sized businesses that question, and you're going to get about 50 different answers on the different kinds of arrangements. Very creative. Let me just give you a few of the creative arrangements, and I'll tell you what we do. There's people in our community that use a handful of neighbors who live near them, and single moms or people with some extra time on their hands, and they just kind of have spread it out, and they even have rented storage locker that keeps all the supplies, the tape, the boxes, everything. And if you need more, you go to the storage locker. Everybody has the code and you just go pick up what you need, and people work out of their house and stuff's dropped all over the place. We've got people who do it out of their own garage, obviously, or, use a prep center that happens to be near them. We've got people who have kind of partnered up, and maybe it's 2 or 3 different sellers around different parts of the country, and they're kind of prepping and shipping for each other based on the convenience of the location of the products that they're working. So it really comes down to relationships is one way to do this, right? Just relationships and working with people creatively around you. Then we've got our prep center network, which is the first prep center that ever appeared in the Amazon seller arena was someone from our community. They launched it. It got huge. And there's a huge demand for this business model now. And a lot of people are launching prep centers and doing well. It's not an easy business model by any means. You can easily get off into the weeds and get in over your head. But there's a bunch of them at prepcenternetwork.com. We keep a list, and you can use any of them. You can check them out, and they have different minimum requirements and such. That's one way to do it. But yes, for our business, we actually have a small prep center. We're very picky on taking on new clients. We're one of the prep centers listed in the prepcenternetwork.com network.
Okay.
But we've got a handful of clients we serve. We do all of our own prepping through that office as well. Actually, some of the coming and going today are my kids going and coming from that office, from that warehouse. And that's where we do all of our prepping. And so we do a significant amount of our own prep work there still, for sure.
Okay.
If for those who happen to live outside the United States, they have no option but use a prep partner of some kind. So some of the most creative prep arrangements you'll find are people who live in Slovakia, right? And they're using a handful of prep centers, for example. But there's a solution for every challenge. And typically it's going to be a person.
Yeah.
Right? There's not some magical service you can call like preprus.com and we'll figure out your prepping needs. No, it's
There you go.
everything's unique. Relationship. It's getting plugged into the community, meeting some neighbors, finding some people who don't mind working hard for $12 an hour, just putting tape on a box and saying, hey, you want to do some work for us? You want to do some shopping and some prepping? Turning them loose. We got one of the coaches on our team, and others have followed this model, where some of the newer sellers end up kind of on their virtual team where they don't even use their own Amazon seller account. They're getting a percentage of, you just contrast my Amazon seller account that's been around for 12, 13 years. Yours is fairly new, right? I'm ungated in like everything. If I opened up that to a new seller and said, hey, you go find stuff that you're approved to sell based on my account, prep it, ship it in from wherever you happen to live, we'll share the profits, right? So you get people you trust in your account, kind of doing it together. We've got people that do that as a model.
That's an interesting model,
isn't it?
I like that.
There's many ways to do this business, many creative ways to grow a team and kind of have people settle into their roles of specialization.
I love that.
And very good.
Depending on how much time they have or what their motivation level is or how entrepreneurial they are, or if they're in the Philippines where $4 an hour spends like $30 an hour, it's hey, put them to work to whatever extent you can, leverage and relationships. So I know that's a lot of answers there for you, Linsey, but there's always a creative solution. And at the point where it becomes tedious, just like your dad said, with that team of guys that he played golf with, like, if you do it more than 3 or 4 times, if it's a repetitive process, we can probably find someone better, faster, cheaper that should and could be doing this.
Mhm.
Very good. So another question is, so you've been doing your Amazon business for, like you said, 13, 14 years. Obviously, it's changed a lot over that time, especially for new sellers coming in. Amazon is now holding profits, or they have that hold amount that they do every month. So
Mhm.
with challenges like that, what are some common challenges that you're seeing with new sellers that are coming in? Something that maybe we haven't run into yet, or just things that we should be looking out for, or at least knowing to avoid in the future as we start growing.
Yeah, it's hard for me to tackle a question like that without first coming at it from a vantage point of gratitude. Because I was on eBay well before I was on Amazon, and the Wild West days, and you've been doing e-commerce for a while, so you can relate to some of this. And you may even remember, like with eBay, you'd wake up one Friday morning and go to check in and see what's up, and eBay doesn't exist. It's like, it's down. And it comes back up sometime Saturday, 24 hours later, and your account doesn't exist. And like, wait a second. Right.
Yeah.
Like the early days of e-commerce where people were like, oh, never use a credit card online. You're crazy to use your, like, we're past all of that now.
Yeah.
This is the way the world works now. The systems and the infrastructure and the trust and the feedback scores. And there's just so many advantages we have now. So anytime people say, oh, well, Amazon wants to, one of the complaints we get is Amazon wants to do a Zoom meeting with me and they want me to show my driver's license. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Like, they're verifying your identification so that they know that you're not a crook. Like, that's it.
Exactly.
It's not some
in
big
their sandbox.
right. So it's relatively minor things. So if we created a post on our Facebook group, and I don't encourage doing this because it's discouraging to say, hey, what thing do you like the least about Amazon? Like, let's all complain.
Yeah.
The stuff that would show up would be things like they lose inventory sometimes. And some people would say, yeah, they lose it quite often. It drives me nuts. Well, you look at the numbers 3 months later and they've found most of it and credited it back. And if you open up a case and you appeal and you show the receipts, maybe you take pictures of your boxes as you're packing them as a precaution, and some kind of video or even just an image evidence really helps you in those cases. Document everything. Take pictures of your receipts, take pictures of the box that's full with your product there, just in case that box gets lost or shows up as being empty in their system somehow. But then, for every time that happens, you'll hear someone like, hey, I sent in 20 units of a product. Amazon credited me for 120 units of that product and they're selling them. Like, I don't know how it happened, but here we go. Right. So the error drifts in your favor quite often as well. The whole price tanking thing just tells me that you don't understand the arena that we're playing in. If your price tanking is your big concern, that's free markets. That's reselling in general. And one of the reasons that we also talk about this, we call it the ladders of success is maybe a good illustration of the pyramid of Amazon opportunities. As you step up, we're not in the Easter egg hunt. That's the bottom level. Easter egg hunt is clearance aisles at Walmart. And hey, I just sold this for $50 and I only paid $5 for it, but I can't find any more of them. The Easter egg hunt, right? That's a grind. We're talking about a scalable, systemizable business with replans, but that's not the last rung on the ladder. You can go up into branded bundles. You get some of these hot moving products and now you're selling them and you're the only one on that listing. You eventually get into launching your own private label product, perhaps, which is where a lot of people try to start. And most people who go down that road end up failing miserably. There's some incredible success stories from people who start there as well. But the vast majority of people who go down that road, if they don't fail miserably initially, they end up failing because competitors wipe them out and they've got all their eggs in one basket on one product. We see that so often. But that's something you could grow into off of this model. Yeah. So you're asking what are the pain points and what things should you guys anticipate? I would say for any pain point that you could mention, there are 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 creative ways around, through, under, and over it. So really, it's the sky's the limit, and we're still in the early stages. E-commerce only represents 15% of all economic activity in the US.
And that number's just going up every day.
Yeah. It's going to be 20 and 30% before we know it. Hundreds of billions of new spending. And Amazon is half that activity. Like, yeah, we're in the right arena, man.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Yep. Another question is, so with Q4, there's always this talk about Q4, right? We haven't experienced it yet. So we're looking from the outside still. What suggestions would you offer people that are starting out, that are new, with this being their first fourth quarter?
I have a pretty boring answer. It's one of those answers where we could make a whole lot more money if I had a more exciting answer, but because we can really tap in and leverage. But really, the only thing that's going on, I kind of summarized it earlier, is the boring stuff is going to sell 10 to 20% more than it normally would. The exciting stuff, like the Christmas related stuff, is going to sell in some cases, 500,000 times more than it would during a typical 4 to 5, 6 week stretch. Kind of the only decision you have to make is, do I want to jump in and hustle and enjoy the benefit of the hype of Q4? Meaning, okay, yeah, we just found a killer product. Let's hit every Walmart in Phoenix tonight because these are $50 bills. Or do you just keep the slow and steady Q4 mentality, enjoy the holiday season with your family, and it's just another boring month where 20 to 30% sales spike on most of the items that we sell. And we do form Q4 groups. By the time this podcast episode drops, I don't know if it'll be too late to get into those, but I'll stick a link in the show notes regardless. It's provenq4plan.com. Okay. And that's just groups that kind of form into smaller groups to encourage each other to share deals. Let's say there is something like, hey, you can only get it in stores. These are $50 bills, guys. Get to every Walmart in your area before Thursday night and clear the shelf, man. It's like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Along with the training and the scaling and the standard operating procedures. Yeah, it's an exciting time. It's a fun time to start your Amazon business because it's easier to hit home runs during Q4, I guess you'd say. The ball's coming in a little slower, your bat's a little lighter, and you can swing it a little harder, and you're just hitting home runs a little easier. But I don't want people to think that it's all about the Q4. Yeah. The beauty of replens, from my vantage point, I've been in e-commerce a long time, Rob. I haven't seen anything like the predictability, the scalability, the boring, systemizable processes that can come out of replens. So I try not to get too emotionally attached to those magical 5 weeks in November, December. It's just another, there's some nice numbers. You'll see some nice spikes. Everyone shares their sales graphs and it's fun to see everyone's spending money, but it doesn't settle back down to nothing when it's over. You've got that same predictable steady. So I tend to focus there after having done Q4 20 years now. I don't get too much into the hype of it.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
So basically, do what you're currently doing. Just
stay the course.
And find new things and keep sending them in.
But if you want to get up at 3 a.m. and get in line at Best Buy and go get yourself $1,500 off the shelf, hey, the opportunity's there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So here's one other question I have. You've been doing this for this long. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned since you started? I mean, there's probably a bunch of them, but what's one
there's so many, and I've got a handful of books I'm actually writing right now. But I recorded a podcast episode a few days ago. It may be out by the time this episode releases. I'm doing some leadership discussions, but really, you are on a leadership journey. Building a business is a leadership journey, and the sooner you understand that, and the more intentional you are about applying leadership lesson, you are the glass ceiling on your business's growth. And what raises that? What raises the level of potential and possibility? Your leadership skills, integrity and charisma, and being visionary, supporting and loving your team and serving them well, helping them feel like they've bought into a vision, because there is a vision there. It's not just a matter of how many $5 widgets can I find and sell them for $30. And people who just kind of go all in as a one-man show, they leave their family out. They don't hire anybody. They just go as hard as they can, 60 hours a week, and make as much money as they can selling random widgets to strangers. Those people don't last.
Yep.
So the sooner you can realize this is a leadership journey, that's the big lesson I've learned, is this isn't a hobby or a creative way to make money on the side or some slick income opportunity. This is a leadership journey. That means loving people, serving them, growing a team. You're going to have your heart broken. You're going to have days of victory. Like, this is life. It becomes a part of who you are. It's not just a side thing you do to make some money.
Oh yeah.
I would say that's right up there for me. And that may sound trite to some people, but to me, that's the biggest lesson I've learned, going from the 30-something, young 30-something guy that started this, is like, hey, I want to figure out a way to make some extra money for my family on eBay on the weekends. That's all it was. I want to flip some Easter eggs, some closeouts, some things I can find here and there, to, a podcast that has 100,000 downloads a month, and a team and a community and people coming and going and leading and doing different things and trying to manage it all as a leader. It's a leadership journey. And to the degree that you can learn to lead, that's your success level.
I love that answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Leadership development. So I love that. Fits right in with what we do.
Yep.
And it's funny, I was going to add, 20 years ago, I was an eBay seller too, because when our kids were small, and this was the Easter egg hunt, but literally I would just buy and sell their clothes on eBay. Yeah. That's what I would do. And it was fun. Yep. But once they got older and didn't like those clothes anymore, obviously I stopped doing it. But
and a lot of people did that exact thing. Did you ever have anybody, and let me just take you back, at 20 years when you were doing that, Trish, did you ever have anybody ask you like, hey, how do you do that? Like, is that working? Do you remember those little conversations, right? The only thing I did is I started answering those questions. Yeah. That's it. Nice. That's it. And then I realized, man, I'm saying the same things over and over again a lot. I should probably create a PDF. And that PDF sold 1 million copies as a book.
There you go.
That's awesome.
It turned into a podcast. Awesome. And all I did was answer questions. I did the work. I call it the 2 steps to massive success. Do it and make it work. And then when other people go, hey, that's working, can you show me that? You say, yes. And you show them. That's it.
Yep.
The magic formula.
Very good. Excellent. I'm just looking over my list right here, and I think that was all of them now. Yep. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, it's been great getting to know you guys. I think this episode will serve others really well. Was there anything else on your mind that you guys wanted to share? Linsey, anything else on your mind as we were talking that you guys want to get out? This is the last chance to.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say for the younger viewers, if you're thinking about doing something like this, do it. There's nothing to lose. You got even if it's just something you do on the side, it's something that is scalable and sustainable if you keep going at it. So if you want to do it, just do it, jump in.
Yeah. Linsey, we've had guests on this podcast, and I've talked to other young folks in our community. Maybe they're still in college and such. And my parents really want me to get that degree. They're paying for college. I got some scholarships, but I'm already putting 20 grand a month in the bank. And I'm not going to find a job better than that when I get out of school. So they have an agreement. They're going to let me do this, but I got to finish school. Okay, that's great. But it's a great side backup. We live in an era where, and I'm not trying to preach to anyone here, but man, it's just having a backup income stream, multiple income streams, something you can be a little more self-reliant. It just makes a whole lot of sense. And this is the thing that can do that. And as demonstrated by the visual on our screen right now, you can do it as a family. You can integrate people in their talents and skills. Hey, which part of this do you want to carry? You can plug people in and they can bring a lot of value and help you grow this business. It's a pretty incredible opportunity. Stuff like this didn't exist pre-e-commerce. It just didn't.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for putting together the community that you have. It's great. I know that it really, I'm a pretty big thinker anyway, and he tells me sometimes I need to scale it back. But listening to your podcast, I think really kind of helped open the eyes and the vision of, okay, what we were thinking actually really is possible, because you've got so many people out there already doing it and doing it with the models that you're teaching, and which was different than what we were doing. So I just really appreciate all that you do and you've done for this community, because it is allowing so many people to go out there and have success who might not have otherwise.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'll receive about 5% of that, and the rest goes to the incredible team I've got around me that make me look really good.
Well, thank you to them as well.
Yes, very thankful to them.
Yes, it just incredible. There's about 100 of us that make the wheels turn around here, and none of us carry a whole lot of weight. But we're carrying a significant community on this platform that's been built. And anyone who wants to step into leadership roles around here, hey, the doors are open. The way you earn it is grow a beautiful business, bring something that we haven't heard before. We'll put you on stage in the spotlight, teach us. And hey, congratulations, you're a leader. That's the way it works. And
I love that.
It's worked well for a significant amount of time now. And, with God's help, we'll continue on that journey.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And hey, thank you so much for having us on here today too. It was awesome. I did that welcome post and got that message back from you. I was like, yes.
Yeah. So well, we've had some requests in the community. Hey, bring on some newer sellers. Some people are just getting rolling. Some people with interesting stories, maybe that, they haven't achieved that $100,000 a month yet. They're just spending their first few $1,000s trying this thing out. And so we were excited to do it. And I'm loving it. We've done a good handful of these now, and I think they're coming out just beautifully. So it's good getting to know you guys. It's great seeing this part of your family. What a beautiful family. You guys are very blessed. And I think you're going to make a few people jealous just traveling around in an RV, making money online. Yeah. That sounds like a great gig.
we hear it all the time. And it's,
well, there's quite a community of people who are going to be interested in this concept. And like I said, that Facebook group that the Mosleys are launching, I'll stick a link to it in the show notes. We'll probably launch this in conjunction with that, so people who are interested can start to research that and start looking into hanging out with other people who are kind of thinking and doing life that way, kind of that on-the-go nomad type lifestyle, right? But using e-commerce to fund the dream of travel. So, well, God bless you guys. It's been good hanging out with you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to talk to listeners for just a moment as we wrap this episode up. On behalf of my guests today, great conversation. I almost forgot you were here listening along with us today, because I just like getting to know the new folks of this community here and their journeys. But hopefully you benefited. I'm sure you did, actually, because there was a lot of creative discussion today. Thanks for giving us some of your time. We're going to have another great episode for you again real soon. In the meantime, God bless you, business building warrior. This is Jim. I'll talk to you then. Hey, one last thing before I let you go, just a little reminder. Now that the show is over, it's a great time to go check out Rev Seller. I've told you before, it's one of the top 3 most popular tools used in our massive Amazon seller community. It puts information right on the screen when you're on Amazon.com that helps you make great buying decisions about your inventory very fast. Is this a winner or is it a loser? Rev Seller can help you make great decisions. Check out the special offer they have just for listeners of this community. It's the best price you'll find anywhere on this tool at provenamazoncourse.com/Rev Seller. REVSELLER. Hey, see you next time.